Everybody, good evening. Welcome to the Author's Lounge. Really excited for this one tonight. So let me see if we can get our guest. Tonight we are joined by the fabulous Sue Reed on a very special day for her book. So let's see if we can get her in. Let's see if we can find her. I hope you've all had a cracking day. That's lovely. And is that Sue?
Well, I think, hang on a minute, let me just turn that round. That's better. Oh, that was so nerve-wracking. I've never done a live before. And nothing popped up on the laptop, but luckily I had the phone ready, so we could go with that. Honestly, I want you to see my fairy lights.
I want to see your fairy lights. Oh, look at those.
Look at that. Look at that. I'm going to have to hold this phone then in that case.
Okay, my dear.
Hello, sorry.
That's all right.
Talking too much.
Hello. How are you doing today then? Have you had a good one?
Yes, I have actually, thanks. Yeah, I did a podcast recording this morning with the Pumping Marvellous charity that supports people who have had heart failure.
Wow.
And it's my anniversary. It's a year since Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn was published, so it's absolutely great to have something in the morning, something in the evening. I did a bit of writing in between, trying to sort out my elderly father, and then I went for a walk. So, great day.
That's not a bad one. Definitely better than the one I've had. Look, there it is. Happy birthday, MollyMcFlynn.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Yeah. So, are the fairy lights there all the time?
No. I did a couple of evening Zoom calls over on Substack, and I noticed that anybody who's anybody has fairy lights in the background. So I've just been up to the attic to get them out the Christmas box, much to my husband's annoyance, who says it's not Christmas yet. We get the lights out for. But
okay, all right. I have fairy lights, but they're not behind me.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm feeling left out. I'm going to have to sort this out, aren't I?
I'm gonna keep these going forward. I quite like it. He has a birthday on the 13th of December, so we're not allowed to put anything Christmassy up until after that. So, being a rebel, they're going up.
Excellent. We like that a lot. So, how has been Molly's first year? Was it everything that you hoped for?
Oh, it's been a huge learning curve. Let's say that. It's been amazing book sales wise, but I have worked my butt off marketing it.
Yes.
I'm partnership published. I'm not with a traditional mainstream partner publisher, so I've been doing loads and loads of work myself. I think my biggest thing to take from it though is the community of readers, writers, just people in the book world. Phenomenal. You know, when you live in the middle of nowhere and you're writing books, it's a bit lonely. But just the most amazing community I found, and although it's pitched as YA, you know, this wonderful community of especially older readers, my sort of age, you know, people in their 50s, 60s, and it's just, I found my tribe. It's lovely, and that's what the book's about as well, isn't it? Finding your tribe.
Absolutely, very, very much so. I'm so pleased to hear that, because it is a wonderful community that will band behind a book and get it out there. And I think, I've seen, since I found you and I found Molly, you know, you're everywhere. So well done for that, because it's not easy. Not easy.
No, it's not. But I work hard at it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good. It's good.
It is. So for those people who haven't, and how very dare they not, have read MollyMcFlynn, give us in a nutshell what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. The Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn. In a nutshell, it's about daring to be different.
Yes.
It's Molly. A quick synopsis: Molly is sent to live with her bohemian grandparents in the wild of Northumberland during the beginning of COVID. Her mother says she can't be trusted. Molly's been caught shoplifting in town, and Molly's sent to live with these what she considers her weirdo grandparents at first. Molly's furious. The food's inedible. There's no Wi-Fi. Her friends pretty much abandon her quickly and are really quite nasty to her. And Nan's doing strange things in the garden at night. And she meets a homeless girl on one of her walks with the dog. And this girl's on the run. But she's on the run from the witch finder and the 1649 Newcastle witch trials, which has seen her mum, Anne Watson, banged up in jail. And Anne was one of the women murdered on the town moor in 1649 on accusations of witchcraft. So it's a story of true friendship, of how Molly and Martha discover their true friendship and help each other. It's a story of reinvention, of Molly finding, on a personal journey to find her true self. And it's a story of breaking free of expectations. We have all these expectations that society says we have to be. We have to be a certain shape. We have to be a certain size. We have to do certain things. And it's really, saying no. We're all individuals. And everybody's got their value, and dare to be different. Dare to be yourself.
Absolutely. What I loved Molly. I really did. It was lovely to go on that journey with her. I did laugh out loud at the beginning because she is such a typical teenager, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's stropping round. It was, Kevin had arrived, hadn't he? It was like, oh, no Wi-Fi. Oh, can't wear, strange knitwear. What are you doing in the garden? Oh, I'm not speaking to anybody. And I'm saying, she is a fish out of water.
Yeah, she's not immediately likable, but I think you pretty much soon understand why she's being like she is. And you watch her on a journey and grow as a person, and see how, as she gets immersed in country law and walking down the lane, and Nan's influence rubs off on her, and she goes through quite a transformation. I see her as becoming, in future novels, sort of the Greta Thunberg of the Northeast, and getting even braver in her activism and leading with some really good campaigns to fight against, the climate emergency and protecting nature.
Oh, hugely. Yes, I can see her doing that, given the trajectory that you put her on for this book. Did you set the book in COVID because it had echoes of the same amount of sort of paranoia during the Newcastle witch trials? I sort of felt that coming through.
There's certainly a lot of parallels, aren't there? And
huge, yes.
I was looking at herbalism and looking at some of the herbs that are used for healing during the plague, and noted them. But the reason I think it primarily was set in lockdown, I went to university just before lockdown. I discovered at 58 that you can get a student loan to do a master's degree. And I'd always fancied doing the creative writing. Well, I promised myself I would, in inverted commas, be a writer by the time I was 60. And when I discovered this, I thought, right, it's now or never. And I went to college in Newcastle in 2019, September 2019, and was doing this wonderful module, writing for children and young adults. It's absolutely brilliant. And a term in, and then just after Christmas, it was Mother's Day, just after Mother's Day, wasn't it, in the March, we all went into lockdown. And that was that. Lectures stopped. I stopped swinging my lanyard, going through the student quad and going to the student bar and getting the train into town, all that loveliness. And I was back in my, cold bedroom in the middle of nowhere. So, and missing my grandchildren desperately. And there were all these things that I thought, well, this is such an important time for everybody. I wanted to sort of write some of those memories down and get it down, but it just seemed natural to set it then because that was what everyone was going through. And then when I started researching the witch trials and herbalism and stuff, it was like, oh my gosh, there are even more parallels. And then the theme of the othering of women and girls that certainly went on then and was very central to my own plot. It was just, brilliant to sort of go with that.
Oh no, it was absolutely phenomenal. But I think you are looking at obviously the time of Witchfinder General. What's his name? Matthew Williamson.
Matthew
Wilkinson.
Tompkins, was it?
Wilkinson. Yeah, one of the brains
Yeah.
going today. Most definitely. I mean, he was hugely influential on what how to identify and persecute a witch with his pamphlet, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Mm,
There was also demonology that had been written by
James the First. Yes.
by the king.
Yeah.
The witch finder in our neck of the woods came from Scotland. We don't know who he was. He didn't have a name. He was nameless. And he was brought down, and he tried. There were 30 people arrested,
Yes.
slung into between Newgate Prison and Newcastle Castle.
Mm-hmm.
Only 16 were tried in the end. A lot of them will have died of jail fever.
Yeah.
During that time, they were arrested in 1649 and not hung until 1650.
Yeah.
So you can imagine them languishing in these cesspits of jail.
Yes.
And in fact, if you go in Newcastle Castle now, there's a name scratched into the floor. I think it's Janet Martin, but one of the women accused of thing. And it was the witch pricker he was known at. So he would have what they called a bodkin, which was it was a thing with a big sort of metal pin, and what he was trying to do was to discover the devil's mark on these women, because the fear of the devil was everything then. And he would prick them with this bodkin, looking for places that they didn't bleed. So he would prick them sort of on the inner thigh and places that didn't bleed. But he actually had a retractable pin. He was cheating. So as he pushed it against the women's skin, the pin went up into the shaft of his thing, and he was found out towards the end to be an absolute fraud. But he'd already sentenced 15 women and one man to their deaths on the town moor.
Ghastly, absolutely horrific. I mean, but it was that kind of hysteria, wasn't it? It was
tens of thousands. Yes. And not just our country, right throughout Europe, and of course witch hunts still go on today.
Absolutely. I mean, what are we, 40 years? This is 40 years or so before Salem, isn't it, really? And it just sort of travels across in little waves and explodes all over the place. But no, I thought it was hugely sort of comparable, and it wasn't something that, as you say, until you start to research it and you go back to where we were in 2020 and you go, oh that sort of makes sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It is good. And then we have Nan. Bless
her.
I love that character. She lots of similarities, really. No, she goes through a journey too. I think all your women go through journeys, don't they, really? You've got Molly's mum, and Nan. They're all quite prickly with each other, aren't they?
They've all got their stories, they've all got their reasons. Nan's obviously got a past. She comes across as quite a fiery, dominant woman, but you really do sort of understand her vulnerability underneath, how much she needs Grandad.
Yes.
There's a lot of me and my backstory in Nan.
Okay.
It was a semi-autobiographical. There's a lot of me and Molly, remembering my 15-year-old self and what it was like, and a lot of my daughter in Molly too. But no, Nan is a big mix of my own Nan, my nanny Dora, who I just loved. She was just wonderful. I loved putting some of her traits into that character, and also a big dollop of fiction. You can go to town, can't you, when you're making up your characters? I like to be character driven though.
Yes. She is such a huge part. I mean, she is brash, she is bold, she is vulnerable, she is just this huge ball of nature and energy that infects. And I think when Molly is sort of trying to resist so much of, I am not changing, I'm not doing this because I don't want to be here. She is so, I don't know, it's like tendrils of nature, doesn't it? Sort of creep out and they get under Molly's skin and sort of unlock her.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, from being in the shower with all the handmade soaps and things, and then going out and picking the herbs and the different ceremonies that happen. And Molly just sort of absorbs it, doesn't she, by living in it. And I mean, I don't give too many spoilers. There's a big crisis, and Molly really has to step up. And yeah, Nan's influence. You can see Nan's influence on her in this. Yeah.
The only thing I wanted Molly to learn how to knit.
Yes, yes. I tried to get my daughter to learn how to knit when she was a teenager, and it was like, oh, don't do that. But now she does. And it was my other nan, my nanny. I had two nans, as we usually do, and they both came from the same council estate. One was dead called Blimey, Nanny Dora, rolled her own fags and had one sort of permanently stuck on her bottom lip.
Yeah.
Was just brilliant. I mean, and the other one was brilliant, but the other one was more like, I don't know if people remember Hyacinth Bouquet. And she was a little bit more refined and wore Nanny Dora, well, quite brash colours and clashing things, and had, you know, clashing begonias in her garden. Nanny Dora was a little bit more refined. And you'd go to Nanny Dora's house and sit on the edge of the settee where it was all doilies and little covers on the milk jugs. And she'd say, do you have your work with you, dear? And that was what I put that into the thing. Have you got any work with you? Now, you were expected to have your embroidery or your stitchery or something with you when you get. Oh, it was all very old fashioned. But yeah, maybe Molly will learn to knit. I've been writing the sequel. Oh, actually, I think the boyfriend knitted the hat in the sequel. But yeah, crafting sort of carries on through. It's something I've always done. So, you know, you write what you know, don't you?
Absolutely, yes, you do. And through Nan, obviously, we circle back to the witch trials because she's part of the Silver Spoon Collective.
Yes, that's right. Yes, the Silver Spoon Collective. As I was doing my research, and I share a lot on social media as I'm going. I'm writing a book. I don't keep it all secret till it's published. I like to sort of involve people on the journey. And I was writing about my research into the witch trials, and a follower, Hannah, said, oh, have you heard of the Memorial Spoon Project? So Karen Thompson, an artist down in Lancashire Way, she collated all the names, hundreds and hundreds of names of women murdered on accusations of witchcraft during the burning times in our country. And she invited you to stitch a little sampler with whatever you could paint, draw, embroider, you know, on it in memory of one woman's name. So I asked her and I said, have you got any of the Newcastle women's names not taken? And she said, yeah, I've got Anne Watson. So that was how I got Anne Watson, and I made a little sampler thing with Anne's name on and some embroidery, going back to my dear Nanny Gwen. She'd have been proud. And it all was put in a great big exhibition honouring these women, and I wanted to put that in, and I mentioned it in the book as well. But you know, Anne Watson, she was one of 16. All there is her name in the archives. It just says Anne Watson, witch, W-Y-C-H, and that's it. You know, we know nothing about these women, as was always the case. You know, history was written about rich white men. Certainly not demonized poor women didn't get written into history. And I think it's really important, you know, that as writers we try and honor these women in our writing.
I mean, I've just talked to lots and lots of women or writers who are rescuing women's histories. Now, when I was talking to Liz Fenwick a couple of weeks ago, her main protagonist in her latest book is a female cartographer in World War II. So most of them, you know, she was instrumental in D-Day, but then sort of hung it up and then went back to what she was doing beforehand. And as you say, all these histories are being lost. And it's only from what you're writing about and the research that you know, other writers are now doing, that these women are regaining, you know, their stories and their names, which is hugely important.
It is important, and I think, you know, we don't know exactly what happened to them, but we can bring their names out and we can write around it. We can research enough of the history of the time to think what might have happened. Martha's fictional, her daughter. You know, I've made up Martha, but you know, Anne's arrested, slung into jail, and she tells Martha to run, and Martha runs along the banks of the Tyne until she somehow you know, arrives through the portal on the Green Bridge and ends up in Molly's world.
and what a shock for poor old Martha that is.
Yes,
Yeah.
gosh, yes. Yes, Molly's not very nice to her at first. She thinks she's a bit of a minger.
Well, yeah.
And, you know, the smell, she's got bad teeth. And, you know, she goes down that sort of route that all her friends, you know, bitching about her. But, yeah, she soon realises that Martha does actually need her help. Yeah. And she steps up.
She does. She does. She grows up very quickly, doesn't she, as Molly, when she realises what's going on. Yeah. I thought, yeah, well, like, go on then, girl. Yeah, this is where you start to turn your corner and off you go.
Yeah.
It is lovely. But also, Molly, at the beginning of the book, she has no confidence, really, does she? As you say, she's body conscious. You know, she relies completely on these horrible friends to try and validate who she is.
Yes.
And
yes, totally.
Yeah, and like most teenagers do, and you know, a lot of us who are, you know, parents and you know have seen, you know, how nasty teenage girls can be to each other when they really want to be, kind of thing. But it's almost a rite of passage that they have to go through to sort of build themselves back up again, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a theme though that can go on through life as well. I don't think it's just pertinent to teenage. This whole sort of othering of making people feel bad for being different. I've certainly felt it in my life over times. We bought. I always give this little example. We bought 2 derelict lead miners' cottages and an acre of land back in 1988. For £19,000. How about that? But it was derelict. We were proper hippies in the hills. Tim had long hair and a long beard. We drove a truck with a chimney out the top. We had a polytunnel. We grew stuff in the polytunnel. We shared a temporary part-time job and brought up our kids. Very alternatively, but we were undesirables. You know, I'd love £1 for every time someone said, "Oh, you're not from round here, are you?" We were incomers, and not only were we incomers, we were hippies. We were undesirables. And my son would not be invited to the other kids' birthday parties in the school group because he had weirdo parents, you know, and that's just the sort of thing, isn't it? It's othering.
It's othering, yes. It really is. But yeah, I liked Martha's resilience and her sort of survivorship, because she really is a tough cookie, isn't she?
Yes, yes, she is. Yeah.
Was she good to write? I know you said she's completely fictional, but you know, how did that character develop?
Yeah, I found her quite hard, if I'm honest, to write. I don't know. I was struggled with her voice, whether I got her voice right. Where I've set it on the island in the river is an actual place.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So that was, it's actually just down the road from where I live. So yeah, my son, who's neurodivergent, said, "Mum, you know, I don't do people," and he said, "You've just written a book that just leads everybody straight to our house." But it was, you know, it was easy to write her in that because I knew the setting really well and I could do that. Yeah, I did struggle a little bit with her. I hope it's come across okay, quite, you know, that her voice was okay, but yeah, she was good. I think the tussle she has, isn't it? What does she do? You know, and does she go back to watch her mother being hung, because we know her mother's going to be hung, or does she stay with Molly? You know, must have been quite a tussle for a poor lass. What was she going to do? I'm not going to tell you what she does, because you know, people might want to read the book. Yeah.
No, never forget. Yes. No, she's good. So what do you think each of your women learn from each other?
Oh, what? That's a good question, isn't it? Well, the mother's an interesting one, because the mother's furious. Something's happened. Obviously, we don't spell it out. I think it's got something to do with maybe her divorce. I think the mother has got to let go of her control and her anger.
Yeah.
She's very much on at Molly about weight. It was something my mother did all my life. You know, you've got puppy fat, you need to lose weight. You're going to get less on the shelf. You know, honestly, the yo-yo dieting I've done all my life and just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. If only I hadn't been told I was fat as a child, I'm sure I wouldn't have the weight issues I have now. So the mother has got to learn to let go of this control and to stop, badgering on about food and what have you. And she does. I love that. I love the last scene of Molly with Mum, and I love that last scene of Nan. Beltane. Let's just say that.
Beltane, yes. Beltane, yes.
Yeah. Molly learns to find her agency, to stand up for what's right, and she learns about the climate crisis, about sustainability, about seasonal eating, and takes this forward into her life. Martha learns the value of true friendship and learns to be brave in the face of adversity. They all learn something, don't they? But haven't characters got to go on that emotional arc?
Huge.
They've got to go on a journey, haven't they?
They do. But what is interesting is where they take which element from. As they go on that journey, who then feeds into teaching Molly sustainability? Where does she get that from? Where does Martha learn what true friendship looks like? And it's how those characters interweave with each other.
Yes, they do, because it isn't simply just off one, is it? They all learn off each other. Martha, it's very hard to talk sometimes without giving spoilers, isn't it? Martha learns a lot. Molly learns rather a lot about herbalism, both from Nan and from Martha, doesn't she?
Yeah. She is. Yeah. No, I really liked that. Was that did you know all of that about herbalism, or was that part of your research?
No. Yes and no. I know a bit. I've always collected herbs, made some potions and things. I made some brilliant ointment for knee pain with nettles, comfrey and rosemary in. I make calendula balm for sore skin, Nanny. My granddaughter always says, I've got sore skin, Nanny, where's your magic cream? And we rub some of that in. I always make elderberry tincture around this time of year pick the elderberries a bit before. Lob them in the freezer when I don't get around to it. That's really good for coughs and colds. But I've got a wonderful, wonderful herbalist, Ross Menzies, who I go to, and he was helping me. He made COVID specific medicine, and he was helping me with some of the things that he put in the medicine, like the birch polypore that there's a little bit of seen with birch polypore mushroom. So Ross was institutionalized, and I research back in the plague days what they did, and I also look at what's growing in and around here. And butterbur. Did you know that they used to wrap their butter in the leaves of butterbur?
Of course, yes.
Nan uses it for migraines, and lo and behold, it is growing down by the river. So using what's around here, using what knowledge I had, but also research and help from other people.
Excellent. And that what I liked again, Nan, the what she almost represents. It's almost like Nan you've got the theme of nature versus the church, haven't you? Sort of simmering away underneath. But Nan representing the wild free spirits, with her herbalism, and her sort of running around the village on a bicycle when she's not supposed to be going out. But hey, oops, but
think the vicar's an arse.
Absolutely.
I love that line. Was it Nan thinks Easter's pagan and the vicar's an arse? Sorry, people who may be married to a vicar or something, but yeah. I mean, so women were hung and accused of witches for being like that, in the days gone by. The church and the patriarchy had an awful lot to answer for when the Puritans came in and decided that women who had been central figures in their community as wise women and healers. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody hung on accusations of witchcraft was a wise woman or healer. They weren't. But statistically, there were a lot of them because a lot of them were women. And these women were to be silenced. It didn't do to be outspoken. My mother, sadly she died in July, but all her life she didn't raise her voice once to my father.
Mm-hmm.
She thought that a woman would, and she believed scripturally that women had to obey their men, and it wasn't our place to cross a man. She'd be horrified at the way, I might be stand up to my husband and say, "No, I'm not doing that. That's not happening." She'd say, "Oh, you can't talk to your husband like that." But yeah, and Nan, she was ostracized in her community for being a little bit different, but I think she would have been a wise woman of old.
Oh, very much so. Yes. Yeah. No, I just like the interaction, but how Nan learns to adapt. She doesn't, she doesn't subserviate, herself. She doesn't sort of give in. But
no, she mellows, doesn't she?
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, she
Yeah.
does sort of come down off her high horse slightly.
Yeah, she does off a high horse a little bit more, and yeah. Well, she needed to, didn't she? Really, I get where she's coming from. It can be so hard being different in a community, and it can make you very angry.
Yes.
And I think you can go looking for criticism as well when it isn't necessarily there, but your hackles are up to start with.
Very much. I think, because she feels vulnerable as well, she's in permanent fight or flight, and she comes out fighting.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And you don't blame her for it in the slightest.
No.
Well,
and also she's got a past, hasn't she? She's got a past, and she's been using whatever coping strategies she needed to cope with her past. And I think she's, just starting to work through a bit of stuff with this. Yeah.
No, but her and Grandad are just a beautiful, beautiful couple. They are just lovely.
I'm glad we've mentioned dear Grandad. We haven't talked about him very much, but obviously we don't want to, tell people what happens or might happen to Grandad.
No.
Grandad's a mixture of my husband, my son, and my own Grandad. In fact, I'm just looking at a picture of my own Grandad here. See if I can reach this and show you. I keep this on my writing desk. This is my nanny Dora. Who can you see that? Yes. Is the light okay?
How lovely.
There's Nanny Dora and there's Grandad. And they sit on my writing desk.
Yes.
As I write. Dear Grandad. He is lovely, isn't he? He's a gentle soul, and I wanted to write a man that was a gentle man, that was a kind man, that wasn't, didn't have all these stereotypical male attributes. He's precious. This is Grandad.
He is. I've written down stability, which is like what I think Grandad gives all of these wonderful whirling dervishes of women that are going through their own journey. Within that, he is almost like a port in a storm for all of them, isn't he?
Yes. And that's a really good point. I often talk about my relationship with my husband, and if you're doing a graph, you've got the axes and the points, or is it that way around, I think. But my husband sort of and he waits patiently, and I'm like that. There's a lot of up and down, and Nan's like that. She's volatile, and so's Molly. Molly's volatile. But you've got this very kind and gentle and patient man that's just there, isn't he? He's just there for her, and he's been there for her all their lives.
And he's as permanent as the wood that he works with.
Yes, absolutely rooted in it. Yes, he's got a wonderful woodworking workshop. It's my son, my John. Oh, there's another one. Oh, look, all these props I'm bringing in.
Excellent, love it.
My John turned wood. He's John's autistic, and he really can't get on with people. But give him a workshop and a lathe, and he's away, and he makes all these wonderful bowls and wooden things for the family. So there's a bit of Johnny in there. His woodwork means everything to him. Grandad in the store, he sells things at farmers markets and things, but obviously with lockdown that all had to stop.
It is. But no, I think if you hadn't got this port, this one character that was beautifully stable, the rest of it, then possibly might have flown off somewhere. They all move around so far.
Yeah, like the nannies in Mary Poppins. Yes.
We don't want to do that. No. What else have I said? So rewilding. Where did that sort of sit with you? Because I think it's a glorious word.
It is. The rewilding of MollyMcFlynn. So Molly is rewilded both in a personal and an environmental sense.
Yes.
It's her being turned on to nature and an understanding about, how materialistic her lifestyle was, and she ditches her consumerism, but she's also rewilded, in a personal sense, and that she doesn't give so much, a jot what people think of her. The book was going to be called Hare Moon, Pink Moon, Flower Moon, because those are the names of the three acts in it, and those are the full moons that it's following. And I was on a Zoom call at university with an agent. She didn't pick it up, mind. But as the agent said, she said, I was telling him about the book, and I said it's Hare Moon, Pink Moon, Flower Moon, with the tagline, The Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn. Oh no, she said, no, that's your title. That's definitely your title, The Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn. So it was her that sort of helped me bring that to the fore. And actually, she said, when you finished it, please pitch it to me, because, it sounds as if this book's got legs. I did. And the company asked for a full manuscript request, and then completely ghosted me. I didn't hear anything else. I did chase it up, and it was like, oh, no thanks, it's not right for us. So that was that.
Gosh, yeah. No. Yes, it is.
Oh, it's horrible trying to get done that, Jen. I'm sure you've talked to many, many authors that have, tried to get agents, tried to get publishers, and I'll tell you how absolutely soul destroying it is. It knocks your confidence low. This nearly didn't get published.
Wow.
It was my daughter. I'm in a really lucky position that my daughter works for Waterstones. Lucky. But I'd stuck it in a drawer, and I just thought, well, it's no good. I'd sent off to about 100 agents, got a few answers, mainly rejections, 3 manuscript requests. And Hannah said, Mum, honestly, it's a good book. She says, I'm not just telling you this. It is a good book. You need to get it out there. And I got it partnership published in the end with the Book Guild. When it came out, Hannah was in the shop, and the area buyer happened to be, and she says, here, have you seen this? I'm going to put it in your hands. Have a look at that. And she didn't tell him that she was that I was her mum.
Oh gosh.
So that was great, and he's been wonderful, the area buyer for the Northeast, and he's put The Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn throughout the North's Waterstones, which is great.
It is great. But it is such a book of the North, though. Yeah,
it is. It is a northern book. The publishing world is very London centric, and I think that has a lot to do with why it didn't get picked up. Yeah, it is. Although then I've had readers in Greece, and I've had readers all over the place that said no, it's not necessarily that northern. We loved it for what it is, but I like to think it's a northern book. I mean, she calls her mum.
Yeah. You get the feel. I mean, you get the smell of the North. Really, the air smells different up there.
We have big skies.
You do have big skies.
Clean air in Northumberland. It's wonderful.
Yes, yeah. We were up in Northumberland a couple of years ago with the family for a summer, and it's glorious.
Yes, it is. It's a wild county.
Yes, yeah. I wouldn't want to do it in the snow.
Well, you say that, where we live, we're at river level. We're on the same river level as the Tyne. We hardly get any snow where we are here. When we lived in Weardale, it was a different matter. We were right up at the top of the North Pennines, and we'd get sort of 20-foot snowdrifts filling in the track, and Tim would have to dig out the Cresta run for the kids to get their sledges up and down to get to school. But no, it's not. I mean, I was born in Sussex, and my dad's still down there, and we always reckon it's 5 degrees warmer in Sussex than it is up here.
Yes.
But it's not that bad. As long as you wear your vest all year round and tuck your vest in, you'll be fine.
Thermals out, you'll be all right.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Gosh, it is all good. So what is next for you? What is next for Molly? Is
Okay, well. I had two books in mind for Molly. I mean, I see very much as she is the Greta Thunberg of the Northeast now, and she's got jobs to do. I would like her, now she's been rewilded, to take on its specific environmental challenges. And the one I was planning was going to be about urban flooding and the reintroduction of beavers.
Okay.
I'd gone up to Scotland to a place called Loch Bar and learnt all about the beavers there and what have you. And I had this story of her going off with mum's new boyfriend on a camper van trip that went wrong. She gets stuck there, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And I'd started researching and writing that. I want to bring in the Scottish settlements. The clearances, the Scottish clearances.
Oh, right, yeah.
But the other one I had in mind was around trees and tree preservation, and I'm very interested in the Druids and the sort of late Iron Age, just as the Roman. We lived near Hadrian's Wall.
Yes.
So, it's all this writing what you know, what's around there. Okay. And as I'm sort of thinking, which one should I? Sycamore Gap tree was felled.
I cried that morning. I love that tree.
Yes, there were a lot of people who goes, well, it is literally on the hill opposite us. When we go up on our, what we call the short block walk up the hill, you can see the gap, like a 7-year-old's mouth with a tooth missing. You can see the gap. And the guy that was first arrested, Walter Rennick, is a couple of fields down. It was like wraiths in the night. The upset, the anger. I wrote I've got a Substack if anyone wants to hop over to it and have a look. And I wrote a really quite a long essay about it. And it was like the felling of Northumberland. It was our symbol of Northumberland. It wasn't, people going, oh, it's just a tree. It's like, no, it's not. It's not just a tree. This was the place where people went to spread ashes, where they got engaged. So I'm actually writing the sequel of Molly. It starts with, there were two trees in Molly's life. One she could no longer bear to be around, and another to which she was fleeing on the AD 122 out of town. And Molly's had a death, she's had a bereavement, and she's not coping with this. And I've written 20,000 words of it. And then, as I was doing quite well, I was on a roll with it, but then my mum got this awful kind of dementia. It was just dreadful. She was seeing snakes and serpents and throwing her legs in the air, and it was just dreadful. And mum died not long, sort of only 4 months, and I had to go backwards and forwards to Sussex to be with mum. She went into a nursing home and I was with her as she passed away. It was very special moment. But and then my father had 3 strokes on their wedding anniversary, just a couple of months after her death. Poor man. He was in hospital, and I went in and found all the anniversary cards all over the table. And I myself have got a little bit of surgery coming up next Tuesday. So it's like, I put it on hold for a little bit, but I'm just getting back into thinking, no, actually, I'm going to be laid up for a bit after this surgery. What better time to stick a laptop on your lap and, get on with it. Yeah. But at the same time, I've got another plan. I've got too many ideas. So in the book is a leather-bound journal. In the Rewilding at MollyMcFlynn is a leather-bound journal called The Gathering. And I've written for the last 12 years. When I gave up my teaching job, I lost the plot. I had a sort of breakdown. I think they call it the perimenopause now, but it wasn't invented when I had it. I lost my teaching job and I started writing a blog then, and I called it The Bridge Cottage Way. And I've been writing for the last 12 years on sustainable living, seasonal eating and that. I'm going to rebrand it soon. I don't like the Bridge Cottage Way. 1, it leads people straight to our house again. And 2, it sounds like a religious cult. The the Bridge Cottage way, the way, the truth, and the life sort of thing. I'm going to rebrand it as the whole Substack thing I write is called Down Clarty Lonnon, which, if you're not from the northeast, you won't know what the heck I'm talking about. So Clarty means muddy, and Lonnon means lane. So, you know, I get this idea of coming down the lane with me on a walk, coming through the garden gate into the kitchen, and we will then have Nan's Gathering. Where we'll gather together and we'll talk about herbal law, seasonal eating, growing recipes. You know, like today, the chutney's been bubbling on the stove. You know, a gathering of sharing of ideas about what we've all learnt, how to live well with what we have, in tune with the seasons. So that's more of a non-fiction book that I'll have to get a proposal together and then pitch that. So yeah, cool. Not short of ideas. No. Just what with elderly parents and grandchildren at the other end. I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a baby on the way. My kids, not me. You know, I call it the care continuum because you know, for you're ever caring for everyone, aren't you? And I always love they have these like young writers awards. It's like, if you any idea how hard it is being 60. You know, with everybody who needs you, and then, you know, a lot of people having to work full time on top of it. I'm lucky I don't have to do that. But,
no, yeah, we are the sandwich generation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we really are. Yeah. So yeah, the sequel for Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn. It's got a working title, The Presence of Absence, but not really there with it, and certainly Nan's Gathering from Down Clarty Lonnon I think's got legs.
Excellent. And is there something that we all need to do on Halloween?
Reframe the narrative of the witch. Yes, thank you. Oh, I get so sick of it. You know, so often people that book me for talks and they go, Sue Reed's here to talk about these women who were witches. And it's like, no, have you not read the book? They're not witches. They were women that were accused. I'll stop shouting. Sorry, it's my soapbox. They were women that were accused of witchcraft. Yes. And, you know, the pointy hat, the wart on the nose was a construct of Walt Disney when he did The Wizard of Oz. And, you know, I really do think that we should talk to our children, even, you know, even if you are still dressing up as a witch, please talk to them about women who were persecuted for for being outspoken or for just being women. Yes, let's reframe the narrative of the witch, please.
Okay, I will definitely do that for you. No, listen, so we're running out of time now. It has been glorious to talk to you.
Thank you.
You know, we need to, please do come back when you have the next installment, please, when we will wave it around again. So for anybody who hasn't, for heaven's sake, get your hands on a copy of The Rewilding of MollyMcFlynn, because it is an absolute treasure of a book. I really, really loved her.
I've got 300 copies here, so if you want one from me, I can sign it, I can dedicate it to however you want. I'll even Christmas wrap it for you if you like. You just have to go to my website, Sue Reed Writes, and you can order from there.
Fabulous.
Or also go to your bookshops, you know, do that too.
We'll put the link up for you so that people can get to it. But thank you to all those who have joined us again in the Authors Lounge. Do keep an eye out. We've got some lovely authors coming up before Christmas. But again, Sue, best of luck with everything that Molly is going to do, and hopefully we will see you again very soon.
Super. Thank you for having me, Claire, and thanks for everybody for tuning in.
That's great.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.